It's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
Hello and welcome. He is Gary McNamara. I'm Eric Harley as we begin another day. Wednesday. Gary, how are you?
Doing good, and it's good to see that Republicans in Congress are following the Red Eye Radio advice here. It's something that we've talked about with the debt for the longest time. I want to play just a little bit of Kevin McCarthy yesterday.
It's like having a child, giving them a credit card, and every single time they hit the limit, you just raised it. To now you owe more money on the credit card than you make in an entire year. Because that's what we have as Americans, that we owe more than our entire economy is. So when are you going to change the direction? We've passed the bill. We have the ability to do this. You don't have to worry because we have a bill over on the Senate side that they can pass that raises the debt ceiling. We can get this job done now. I don't think it's productive for anybody to keep kicking the can down the road. And let me just tell you, for every new American that's so excited, that was blessed today by having a new child, by kicking that can down the road, that child got a $94,000 bill today, and they've only been alive one day. That is wrong, and that has got to stop.
Speaker McCarthy, is an increase to defense, veterans, and Department of Homeland Security, border security still a demand for you?
Look, all I've said from the very beginning, we need to spend less than we spent this year. Is that hard to do?
So how do you know when you spend more on other things?
Just like every other household. Let me explain it to you, okay? We need to spend less, but what have we spent when the Democrats have been in power? They've increased spending, especially on discretionary, by more than 20%. We are spending more than at any other time. Then if you want to look at it from a point of GDP, we are now more than 24% of GDP spending when on a 50-year average we're at 21%. So how do you do it? We're going to do it like every single household does it. They're going to make a decision on what's the most important, but they're not going to be able to spend so much more. So we're going to make a decision just as Republicans and Democrats together. We're going to find a baseline that we agree to that will be less than what we spent this year, and appropriators are going to sit together and prioritize what's right. Do you think it's right that we would spend and leave money, billions of dollars out there for COVID, that we appropriated for 2 years and they never spent and the pandemic's over? What about bringing that money back? What about helping people get back into the workforce so they pay into Social Security and Medicare? I don't think it's right to take from a hardworking taxpayer and go borrow from China to pay an able-bodied person with no dependents to sit on a couch.
And one of the things, and I went through a number of audio cuts yesterday where he's talking about your grandchildren. Mm-hmm. Why are we doing this to our children and grandchildren? He's mentioned it, and that's the thing. I think they should be stronger. I think they should be stronger, but at least the message is there. And to be stronger, it is one of the most immoral things that we're doing, putting what we want today on our children, our grandchildren, and our great-grandchildren. It is immoral. It's wrong. I think they should be, because nobody will argue with that. You can't argue. I'm looking at the CNN polls. 60% say debt ceiling increase should come with spending cuts. Mm-hmm. And then they focus on only 15% say we shouldn't raise the debt ceiling at all. Well, you got to raise the debt ceiling. You eventually have to raise it.
Well, that's it. But the fiscal responsibility has to be ever present. But it's been never present since, seemingly since we've been doing this, really. And the question is, how far do we want this to go? We're all paying the price for inflation. Saw an article day before yesterday talking about, inflation has finally dropped to 4.9% compared to the 9% this time last year. And I said, nope, you phrased that wrong. 4.9% on top of the 9% this time last year. And what is causing it? The spending. Over and over again. We're paying for it. And then we've got, roughly half of the representatives in Congress, I mean on the Senate side, the majority, fighting to keep doing the same thing.
Doing the same insane thing. And those are the two things that I think you should pound on. It's immoral what we're doing and inflation.
Yep.
That it's, and you and I have said it, to no debate. No one has ever argued this point with us ever because you can't. It's one of the most immoral things that the United States does. And that's put what we want today on the backs of our children, our grandchildren, and our great-grandchildren. Mm-hmm. It is absolutely wrong. It's immoral. And the Democrats want to do more of it. They don't care about future generations.
No, they don't.
And by the way, McCarthy did say, look, this is just a start. This does not solve the problem at all. It's just the beginning. And, and we said that's a good thing to be promoting. This is just the beginning, but we have to stop this. This is wrong. You have felt the inflation. Don't believe Republicans. The Obama economists were the ones that warned that this kind of spending is why you've had such hardships for the last couple of years. And you can do that within 30 seconds. When you're talking to the public or the press, stop with the 24% of GDP versus 21% of GDP. That means nothing to anybody.
Making the point that the child born today is born into $94,000 of debt
is a great point.
Is exactly
right.
Where you need to keep going. The very simple things that we keep, we've been saying that comparison with a teenager for years. You're giving the teenager a credit card. You keep raising the limit. During the Obama years. Yeah, well, just because we raise the limit doesn't mean we're going to go to the limit. Shut up.
Yeah, well, Obama knew he was lying when he said that.
Of course.
He knew he was lying because everybody knows we're going to reach the limit.
Yeah, and because if you're implying that it's quite possible that we won't need to go to that limit, then let's talk about raising the limit altogether. Let's have that actual conversation. You're saying we might not need to raise the limit, is what you're actually saying.
Right.
And the fact of the matter is, you're lying. He was lying then, and now, this is Karine Jean-Pierre doing it again today or yesterday. We have to pay our bills. We have to pay our bills, except college debt. We have to pay our bills. We have to pay. We have to pay. We will never default. No, you're right. We won't default. We're not going to default because we're going to keep making the interest payments.
Yeah, and the default is a bogus argument to scare people.
Yep. It's the fear word.
We're not going to default. And the Democrats, why are the Democrats talking about doing something that's unconstitutional? Because when they say default, that means their administration will purposely default when it's against the law to default, and we have the money not to default.
Yeah, right. The Treasury Secretary is not going to default.
Yeah, she already said that yesterday. We're going to do, but they keep throwing that out there. Mm-hmm. This is a CNN poll. The majority support raising the debt limit in some fashion, the debt ceiling in some fashion that cuts across party lines. Most Republicans, 79%, and independents, 58%, say the limit should only be raised if spending cuts are enacted at the same time. Democrats are split. 46% say raise the debt ceiling no matter what. 45% raise it alongside spending cuts. Republicans are winning the argument.
Yeah.
Now, as I said, they're winning the argument before, we hit that point where they may have to stop, they may have to make temporary cuts to some programs. Mm-hmm. But the fact is, and this is really interesting when you think about it, there is nobody. This was the article that was written yesterday. The Republicans are out there promoting stuff, and people focus on McCarthy. There is no spokesperson for the Democratic Party right now because Biden, he's completely incoherent, and Karine Jean-Pierre, nobody buys what she's selling. Mm-hmm. Nobody does. So the only one out there, and McCarthy's not doing a bad job in explaining it. I think he could do a better job And the better job is when you get in front of that camera, you say it's immoral what we're doing. $94,000 for every new child born today, that this is the kind of debt we're putting upon them. This is one of the most immoral things that we have ever done, that the United States has ever done, putting what we want today on the backs of children that are just being born today and aren't even born yet.
Mainstream media article yesterday, and the headline said it all. The liberal media can't help themselves. McCarthy's cuts will hurt children's programs and Social Security. He's trying to kill children and the elderly. Mm-hmm. That's what This is Paul Ryan all over again. Paul Ryan had a 30-year plan, which to conservatives was laughable, and the liberal media, went out there. In fact, the Democrats put an ad out of a guy that looked a lot like Paul Ryan pushing an elderly person over a cliff. And, these are the fear tactics, but that's the whole word. That's the entire focus has been that word, that key word, default. That's the fear word they're using. They want that. They're going to kill children. They're going to kill the elderly. You might die. The fact of the matter is, look, and I don't know who they're talking to, by the way. You look at it, and they already have won over. The left has already on the national debt. They already pretty much have everybody or the majority of people in their corner. Nobody, rank and file, is screaming we must end this. With few exceptions of real fiscal conservatives, and we're a very small group now. You're not hearing any noise on this. And over again, you and I have been saying it, and, I think a huge turn was made in the 2008-2009 recession. When we started getting calls, well, if the banks are getting bailed out, I want mine.
Yeah, and that was from Republicans.
Right.
And I believe that the reason you see the polling is because everybody knows what we're doing is wrong.
Yeah. Yep.
There isn't anybody. Every Democrat knows what we're doing is wrong, putting the burden. That's why they ignore that part of it. And it's simply, well, if we don't spend this money, then these people will be. Well, what about putting the debt on future generations?
Right.
You notice they never, ever discuss why that is moral to do so.
Right.
Because when we do it, and we do it every year, and the Democrats keep spending through the roof, they knew that it was going to cause inflation. They didn't care the harm that it would put on the American citizen, so they didn't care. Is there any morality of not having the inflation that we've had over the last couple of years?
Right.
Is there any bad morality? Is there any morality in that? Mm-hmm. In having the inflation that we have? Is there any morality in the COVID money which wasn't spent, keeping it in the government to spend it on something else? I don't think there's any morality there. And is there any morality that anyone can justify of putting what we want today, this incredible, horrible debt and interest that has to be paid off, not by us, we'll all be dead. Mm-hmm. And we're putting it on our children, our grandchildren, and our great-grandchildren. Tell me how come Democrats never talk about that, ever?
They just need to come out and do the very simple play. Listen, Karine Jean-Pierre and the president, all of them could say it. Most of the American people don't care about the national debt. They want us to keep spending, so that's it. We win. We win.
Yeah. 866-90-RED-EYE.
When it comes to truck maintenance, sometimes it's the little things that can cause the most trouble, like cabin air filters. When properly serviced, cabin air filters provide a barrier between pollutants and harmful particles outside and your HVAC system. If you don't pay attention to them, however, this small part can turn into big trouble in no time. Breathe easy when you know which warning signs could indicate that your cabin air filters are clogged. A dirty, musty smell throughout the entire cab may indicate your cabin air filters are oversaturated and need to be replaced. Check the condition of your filters if you smell an unusual odor coming from your ventilation system.
This report is brought to you by Shell Rotella.
Shell Rotella, with advanced synthetic technology, is designed to help keep your rig running with more mileage and less maintenance.
Lines open for your calls. 866-90-RED-EYE on Red Eye Radio.
Red Eye Radio, he's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. I want to play this audio of McCarthy saying the Republicans will never agree to just raise the debt limit itself without conditions. Here's this. Here we go.
Mr. Speaker, as you get closer to this deadline, if you still don't have a deal, is there any scenario where you would do a clean up or down increase on the debt limit?
A clean debt ceiling? No.
That's not what you want, but if you're May 31st.
No, let me be clear. No, we're never putting a clean debt ceiling on the floor. You want to know why?
And then he goes into what we had played, the audio we played before, about the $94,000, and just it being irresponsible to do so. That we have spent so much money, and we at least have to get to the point of stopping. We need to get, not that this is going to solve the problem at all. That's why you have to raise the debt limit, but we need to start reversing at least to a point. And the thing is, if you explain it right, all Americans know that what Kevin McCarthy is saying is right. Every Democrat knows that what the Democrats are doing is wrong, that we cannot continue on this. And one of the reasons now is because Americans have felt it. The debt is no longer abstract. Everybody has felt it and have had to change their behavior because of it. How many Americans now have picked up a part-time job in the last year and a half?
It's interesting because during COVID, the COVID spending accelerated everything, but people knew what the spending was about because many people were getting that direct benefit. Those dollars, quite often, if we talk about, over the years on conservative talk radio, you talk about the national debt and spending. And when you talk about things like, well, we're spending too much on the military, we're spending too much on infrastructure, so much of this was going straight to they know they were getting the checks themselves directly, and that's where they made the connection. Now, when they expanded the child tax credit and then gave that back to people on a monthly basis for 6 months, at the end of that, people said, polls showed, and we can't keep doing that. But then it was a few months later, they were saying, we probably need to do more spending. I mean, it was, but they understand. They know where it's coming from. And it is no longer in the abstract. We're not talking about infrastructure budgets. We're not talking about the military budget. They were getting the money themselves. They know what this was about, and they put two and two together. Now the question is, how much do they care? And you can measure it. You can see it right now. And, it's what they're doing right now in the House, what McCarthy is doing, they're ramping up for 24. They're doing everything they can to appease conservatives and keep that conservative base there. And it's nowhere near enough for us and the ones that watch the debt on a daily basis. It's not enough, but at least we're having the conversation about it.
And he said that, by the way. He said that multiple times.
The only two hosts in America that know specifically which room the elephant is in. Red Eye Radio.
And he's Eric Carly, and I'm Gary McNamara. All right, I do have to read portions of this.
No. It's great.
It's just too humorous. This is a town hall, Kurt Schlichter, the GOP's Festival of Losers, and basically saying, this is about Trump, DeSantis, and winning. Yeah, that's basically what. When I read the headline, that's in Real Clear Politics. That's what it said. But the article is actually the GOP Festival of Losers. It's like the obvious reaction to the bizarre idea that Chris Christie will soon enter the 2024 GOP primaries and then win the general election. Fat chance is accurate on every level. The rotund Republican has zero support among the base, having missed his window a decade ago and having gone on to become one of those Republicans whose primary function is to trash other Republicans, a chubby chimp dancing for dimes as the MSNBC organ grinders play. Why is he running? Delusion? Narcissism? Greed? Who knows? Who cares? We've talked about Nikki Haley before. Remember her? She's still running for vice president or president. I spoke to about 100 conservative women in Washington State the other night and mentioned her. Her support was zero, nada, nil. Yet now the aforementioned Pillsbury Doe candidate and a few other no-hopers are joining her in spending tens of millions to top out at 3%. Add Mike Pence to the footnote force. About 20 years after the last election, where his brand of milquetoast weekly standard weakness had any resonance, just this week he decried Republican candidates doing things their voters cared about, like taking on the communist corporations, trying to turn us into a gender-ambiguous wine woman dictatorship. Real Republicans apparently focus on the important things like tax cuts for those same communist corporations and carefully, soberly managing our nation's decline. Pence spices it up by throwing some Jesus into the mix, not the Jesus who grabbed a whip to drive the money changers out of the temple, but the one that guitar-strumming Methodists from Santa Monica dig, the one who never actually challenges the status quo because, oh, well, I never, and that's not who we are, and we're better than that. Yeah. If we must have a preacher run things, I vote for John Lithgow and Footloose. He may have tried to keep those kids from dancing, but at least he wasn't a sissy. He wouldn't mutter something out of, well, we can't interfere with the rights of parents.
Oh my gosh, that's great.
Oh, and then he just keeps going on and on. I mean, it was like reading because he's making legit points, and at the same time, throwing shots, every single way. And then he goes on to Sununu, and he's like, there's Tim Scott, the favorite of everyone, who thinks Mike Pence is too fiery and aggressive. And then he writes, I like Tim Scott. Heck, I like Mike Pence too. They would make terrific Sunday school teachers. But it's Saturday night, and it's all right for fighting. Okay, so but he just gets into it. It was just, I just like the way that he wrote it was extremely entertaining. He's taking shots. Look, any of the candidates would be better than what the Democrats have to offer. Yeah, but he's making a great point as to
you got to be willing to fight. It's something we've been talking about for years, and we said it during the Trump years. We said it. We said it long before the Trump years. That. John McCain, 2008, the whole fight with me. Yeah, but you've been crossing the aisle with the Democrats your entire career in the Senate.
Yeah, we made fun of that because fight with you for what purpose?
Right.
But I think Schlichter makes the best point right here, which we all know. The enemy hates us. The political enemy hates us. And is dead serious about converting its hatred into policy, from legalizing crime. Now, is that inaccurate?
No, it's not.
From legalizing crime to weaponizing the government against us, from disenfranchising us at the ballot box to disarming us in our homes to gagging us on social media and leveraging a regime media to hide the truth and amplify the lies. This is the Cold War where we become serfs if we don't win. It's not the time for team, use your inside voice. The enemy holds every major institution. If you are worried about collateral damage to those institutions that seek to enslave us or worse, then you don't have the stones to flatten them and their current occupants, and that's what we need to do. And that's why you look at it, and that's why you have, that's why Trump, of course, is up there, but that's why DeSantis, and that's really the big, as we've said, that's really the big thing. DeSantis has said, I'm going to take no prisoners, in this thing because of, what the political enemy is doing right now. And yeah, there is a train of thought, as we've talked about before. Well, is the Disney thing a weakness? But as you go on and you see now, whether it was, Disney and what Disney was actually doing, and if you explain it right, that Disney wants, Disney wishes to teach kids that are 5, 6, and 7 years old that if they're a male, they can be a female if they wish to be. Think about that. And backing the activist, liberal activist transgender movement also means that you are for child mutilation in a situation where we all know, because this is the insanity of it, the pro-liberal transgender activist movement folks, they're the ones that are saying you must accept what we believe because we have such a high suicide rate. Well, then you need to be concerned about that high suicide rate and why that's happening, right? No, you even bringing that up is hatred. That's transphobia. So I'm concerned about a particular demographic that has a mindset that they wish to force on children that they willingly admit probably has the highest suicide rate of any demographic, and children should be able to make that decision, and Disney is for that. Well, you can pound away all day on that, and you look at, we see what happened with the whole Bud Light thing. You see now the Dodgers. You saw with the Dodgers. You see Target. And now Target's it's like, what you're not going to learn? Target came out, with their children's transgender styles in their Pride collection. And
Fox News reporting yesterday that they had to go into an emergency meeting because they didn't want to Bud Light themselves based on that. And we said it days ago. We said, listen, they've been here before. That company's been here before on the whole bathroom thing. And they knew they had to go neutral. And then the report said, and I didn't see any release from Target, by the way. It's all stuff that comes from reports. But the report said they had to take some of that apparel and move it to different parts of the store in certain markets, in certain cities.
And it can't have a high profile. There can't be a sign for it.
Right.
It cannot be on mannequins.
Right.
And so, but the whole point is, the idiocy of that is, well, you're doing exactly what is going on with Bud Light now. They're losing on both sides. What you're saying is, okay, we gave the Pride selection was at the front of the store, and a huge, apparently really huge, so you couldn't miss it.
Right.
And so they went, we can't do this. And this started apparently even last Friday, even before the meeting that they had to try to figure out we can't Bud Light. You just already did it because you told the stores, you said, okay, hide it.
Right.
Have it there, but hide it. Well, now you've got the left ticked off at you.
Right.
I mean, it's just the idiocy inside of these corporations, but we know what their first instinct was. And their first instinct was, and I went into Target yesterday, and I had the card, and I had over $50, and so I went in to spend my last money at Target, and I actually had gone back and looked at the Pride section. It was way in the back of the store, and you had to look for it.
Yeah,
it was actually behind other things, but it was there, and I know everybody there. I mean, the people at that store, and if I get a chance to talk, I mean, I'll probably go in and because I know the manager. If I see the I may walk in just to see if I can find the manager and tell him, look, I know this isn't your fault or anything else, but this is unacceptable. Do you understand that you're promoting child mutilation? When you get aboard on this, and I'll probably write a letter too, because I frequented that store, to show you how close I am to some of the people. Every year, probably 5 of the people that have worked there long term get banana bread from me.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, I'm shaking my head. I'm like, man, this is like the Boy Scouts all over again.
Yep.
It's just because it's right around. It was funny because a buddy of mine sent me something last night. My buddy Jerry did, who I'm visiting this weekend, and he said, "Oh man, did you see about Target? I know you're really close to the people there." And it was originally, remember the whole bathroom thing where it's like, okay, I remember telling the manager back then, I'm done. Can't do it.
Yep. Well, and that's it. Look, and it's not the offering. It's the presentation. It's how they wanted to present that to their shoppers.
Right.
That's what people had a problem with. Agenda just right there in your face. The offering itself, people walk by it. If that's something.
Well, the offering to children is that's where.
Well,
that's the difference.
You're right. That is the difference.
That's the difference right there.
The small outfits and everything else. But quite frankly, that's been going on. There's other stores, large box stores, that offer that on a regular basis. Even infant clothing. And it goes back to the parents of those infants making that choice to buy that. I've seen it. I've seen it on shelves at places like Walmart. They don't present it in the same way, but it's been going on for a long time. When you present it and put it in the face of people as they're walking in the door, that's what's different. That's the big change, is that we're going to, as a company, we're going to champion this, and we're going to make everybody aware of it. You're going to, hold on. I'm going to otherwise walk right past it. I'm not shopping for children's clothing. I'm not shopping for the how'd they phrase it in the story? The swimsuit
tucked in
that is tuckable.
Yeah, exactly. That's. Well, something. If this had not been a story, I would have never known.
That's my point.
Because because of the Target I go in had it so well hidden that you would have never known.
We went. We were on a long weekend trip, and I was with some in-laws and my wife, and we went in to get some things where we were staying. And it was a Walmart, and they had a couple of items there that someone happened to notice. I didn't notice. In fact, I had already checked out. We were kind of all shopping at the same time, and then everybody meet at the front of the store when you're done checking out, right? So we got done, and then, my sister-in-law says, come here and look at this. And she had noticed something. It's out there. It's in other stores. The difference is the presentation. I didn't notice it and probably never would have. And that's the difference. If you want to put it up there and then put signs up, as a company, they can choose to do that. Don't be shocked if a couple of weeks later you're in an emergency meeting. And this is the problem. But people don't want the agenda. It's, the offering in and of itself, most people wouldn't notice. That's not your problem. The problem is in how you present it.
And so when you see that, just as an example of the presidential candidates that we have now, does the country really want happy? Right. Is it happy that we're looking for, or is it like, look, this isn't the kind of people, we're kind people, we're generous people. Well, we are, but at the same time, you can be vicious in attacking evil.
Yeah. Absolutely.
We'll talk more,
you go after it.
We'll talk more about it in the Republican candidates coming up. 866-90 Red Eye.
Get in touch with Red Eye Radio, toll free at 866-90 Red Eye.
It's Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Carly, and I'm Gary McNamara. I might want to use a different word than a certain viciousness, a certain fierceness. I think is a better word. Is what I think a lot of people are looking when it comes to going after where the direction of this country is going. There is going to be a need for certain fierceness in Republicans and in any Republican president to take on what has been going on, and in a campaign to go after what has happened in the FBI, what's happening with critical race theory, what's happening with the economy and inflation.
And you see that in people like Byron Donalds. That's why we see that they don't stand down. They don't shy away from any debate at all. They lean straight into it.
Top of the Hour News is brought to you by House Products. Visit houseproducts.com.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One. Now, it's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
All across America and around the world, we are Red Eye Radio, 866-90-RED-EYE. Good morning. Thank you for being here. Download our app today. Listen when and where you want. If you can't listen live overnight. We had read a column earlier from Town Hall, Kurt Schlichter. I'd seen it on RealClearPolitics.com, and it was just quite humorous. I mean, he was taking his shots. The basis of the article was it's Trump or DeSantis. Trump, DeSantis, and winning is all that matters. Mm-hmm. And it's like all the other candidates don't matter. Right. They really don't matter. And he actually made some great points. And he was, talking about the fact that, and you saw it yesterday, for example, on Tim Scott. I think he made some great points when he said, Tim Scott, as as the Wall Street Journal put, the optimism candidate. Optimism. And if you saw it, United States is great, and there's great opportunity, everything else. That may have worked at some time, but it actually is not focusing in on what I believe most Americans that are looking at what is failing and looking at things as we do, for example, constitutionally. When you look at what happened at Twitter and Facebook, when you see what happened with the Hunter Biden laptop, when you realize that the government is full of rot, it isn't a time for great optimism. Now, personal optimism, I have it. Mm-hmm. But if I'm talking, going through life and business and stuff that I do and the people that I relate to, I'm still extremely optimistic, and I'm optimistic as to where the country can go. But I also know there's a lot of stink. There's a lot of rot inside the federal government, and it has to change. And you don't change it by pretending, or not pretending, but just focusing on the country has great potential. We know that. There has to be a certain fierceness that any candidate has. And if you look at Trump and DeSantis, they both have it. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It's like, they're on a mission to do something. It's not just about, winning. It's about this agenda. Now, some may say with Trump, okay, what did I see yesterday? It had to be, I guess, from one of the other candidates, but it was on social media or support of another candidate. And it did show, it says, here's Trump endorsing Romney in 2018. Mm. And it's like,
yeah, right.
But that is something, by doing that, is like, okay, Romney really isn't serious about going after the right. So if you're endorsing him, going after the right, going after the left.
Yeah, right.
Well, Romney is serious about going after the right.
No, that's what I was going to say. No, he is. He's very serious about going after the right.
But when you see everything from critical race theory, how that has infested the schools, which is racism.
Yep.
Let's be honest. Mm-hmm. What they're promoting is racism. You judge people by groups and not individuals. And we see it across the board. And there really is no argument to that. You will have what we have is that judging people by groups is now the new anti-racism.
Yeah.
And if you say, no, I believe you should judge a person as an individual and as an autonomous being, well, that's racist. What do you mean? Individuality is a race? Oh, my individuality! How dare you throw that out there?
Well, I mean, years ago, we started talking about, and it first raised eyebrows with us when universities were saying, well, we want to separate students on campus by their color. That's segregation!
I know. The whole safe space was segregation.
Yes.
And as we said, the whole marginalized communities. Remember, and we said, wow, the left is marginalizing themselves. Yeah. We're marginalized over here.
Right.
Oh, really? That's how you refer to yourself as marginalized? You're marginalizing yourself. I mean, that type of segregation, which started with safe places, is racism.
Right.
The whole concept is for everyone to be together, and you search out people, as we all do, not because of physical characteristics, but like character and mindset.
Well, and the agenda wanted to also have the conversation, a very short conversation, about limiting the patrol units in black neighborhoods to black officers only. Now, that didn't last long, so what they did, they said, oh, that's not going to work. Oh, we know what we'll do. No, if you're serving as a police officer and you are black, you're not actually black, you're blue.
Right.
We'll just say it and change your skin color. We'll change you. Mm-hmm. We'll just label black officers. Tell us where the racism is again. Please, somebody tell us.
What did you see? We may get to it a little bit later on where AOC was challenging. Let's talk about the histories of the party. And Cruz just pounded her on the Democratic Party and the history of Jim Crow laws and slavery. And it was like, she knows nothing.
She knows absolutely nothing.
That was a horrible thing for her to say, okay, let's talk about the history of the parties. And I think Cruz was probably salivating at that point.
My gosh.
Are you kidding me? This has to be a fake. This has to be a fake. AOC. Is this AOC AI or something? Because it can't be.
Well, that's it. It was like the what we were talking about with the Uber corporate DEI approach. Now let's have a conversation about the hardships of the Karens of the world.
Yeah, because everybody eventually has to be right. If you're going to be inclusive, you have to talk about the victimization of the white women that are Karens.
Yeah. I mean, they keep running into their own walls that they built.
I know. I mean,
I don't, and
that is the ultimate in the liberal circular firing squad, isn't it?
Yeah. No, it is.
All right, we've gone full circle from a victim. Oh, then and this is the whole thing. Everybody eventually becomes a victim. And at Uber, the Karens that are white women are now the victims, and we need to understand the white women Karens. I mean, that was one of the funniest things
It's like we're watching wrestling from back in the day, and they do ooh yeah, we're gonna get in the ring, and you've got all the good guys and bad guys in the ring together, and then at the end, two good guys are left, and they're the ones fighting each other. It reminds me, if you put all the liberals in there, they're all fighting, their causes, and then they turn around, all of a sudden they're fighting each other and themselves. I mean, they keep running into the walls that they put up.
Well, no, the liberalism is just like professional wrestling. Mm-hmm. It's fake.
It is. I mean, I was the governor of Minnesota. I remember. I have moved now to Venezuela. There's a reason. And the problem is that everything that, and we said it long ago. You may have been one of the first that I heard say it, and that is, well, who's the racist? Why is it that they're always blaming people? Why is it the first thing in their mind is always bigotry, racism, and everything
you're
else.
a racist. You're a
Right.
racist. You're a racist. Right.
Because it's how they think.
Right.
Because, we always get caught up in, basically how we think. And, all right, but if you try and step into the mind, or at least recognize these are the thought patterns, this is how they think, and it's been going on for a long, long time. They do obsess about racism over and over and over
right.
again. You saw the permanent governor of Georgia, Stacey Abrams, was on, I think it was MSNBC, and they asked her, what state do you believe is ripe now for the change that you helped bring about in Georgia?
After the great success you had in Georgia.
Yeah,
right.
great success. Yeah. No, that's right. No, that was key.
That's how I viewed it. That's how I viewed the
No,
question. After your great success in
because
Florida.
I thought, she didn't win, or do you?
Right.
And then she said, Mississippi. And this is the thing that they look at that and they say, all right, this is what we want to do. We want to go on and push our agenda. And, they're still doing the thing. If you, the NAACP.
It was a great day yesterday, but go ahead, continue.
Yeah, the NAACP, because that was that story about, the whole warning on Florida, and then, and then they just, at the very end, they had to fold in also voting rights and the whole thing. And then it turns out that whole fight in Georgia, we knew from the beginning, was bogus. Everybody knows it's bogus. And the people, if you want to split it into groups in terms of voters, the group that had the least problem in the voting setup in Georgia, the new voting setup in Georgia, are Black Americans. They're the ones that had virtually no problem with the new setup.
No, in fact, they had less.
According to the polls.
According to the poll, I think University of Atlanta did it, the post-election poll.
Yeah.
In fact, blacks were more pleased and more satisfied with the election system than whites were.
Right.
I think
they said virtually no complaints.
Yeah, it was minuscule. In fact, there were zero complaints.
Zero complaints. Zero. Yeah.
About having to vote, and so
the reality is. And someone said it, and I think we talked about it the other day, but something we've talked about. In our everyday lives, we don't live that way. We get along. But politically, if you're in the political scene, it is going to be, for them on the left, it is going to be war. And it must be war. And if there's not war, if there's not a problem, if there's not division, we're going to create it. And the thing is that in most places, there is not this great division. It's not like it's perfect. I'm not trying to paint this, huge, perfect picture. That's not the case. But for the most part, we get along in society. People cooperate. They go through their day and have very few, if any, problems in interacting with each other on a normal basis. This is what the left hates. They don't like the fact that this is why they don't like the expansion of wealth. When there is greater buying power for everyone, including minorities, in a good economy.
You don't need the government.
You don't need the government. You don't need them. They're not your hero. You're building everything yourself. And yes, you did build that. And all of that turns into what? More decision-making power for you and your family. Whatever decisions there are going to be, you have that freedom to make them because of that wealth expansion that you benefit from as well. And those are the things that are very, I like, we talked about, having, you use the word fierce. I think it really is the one that applies, because the GOP is going to have to show that they're willing to. The Kurt Schlichter thing, brilliant writing, but demonstrating something that we've been saying for years, that the GOP needs to be able to. They need to be willing to fight. It's laughable that the GOP is saying, "Well, what we're going to do now is we're going to find candidates that can win." Gee, that is genius. I've never heard of that.
But what the fierceness has to be focused.
Yeah. Yes.
It has to be.
That's funny. I thought of that word earlier. I was saying, it has to be direct every time.
It has to be focused. And the thing is, right now, we've talked about this, and we've gone point by point. Every single major issue that the Democrats are promoting right now, they're lying about.
Yep.
So there's a certain fierceness when you have everything is a lie.
Mm-hmm.
There's a certain fierceness that is needed, and commitment, and not backing down in order to fight that. But you fight it with the fierceness and the focus that every time you bring something up, you're right on it. You don't get involved in the little, so we talked about Trump the other day with The View. Stop talking about the host from The View.
Nobody cares.
Nobody cares. If you're going to direct your fierceness, you direct it as you did in 2015 and 2016. Everything was issue related.
And
that's why you have people that are now attracted to DeSantis, because they look and go, well, yeah, he's fierce just like Trump in a different way, but he's actually getting things done, and he won't back down. But he's right every time, and he doesn't get involved in these little drama battles that nobody cares about with Hollywood celebrities, or it's like when Trump was talking about the royal family. I don't care. I don't want a presidential candidate talking about the royal family.
Right.
It's not of interest to me. It's not what we're facing in this country. Don't get involved in that crap.
No, if you want to talk about Great Britain, talk about, our allies and, what he had talked about for years. They need to pay their way when they're, all of those things that he was spot on about for years. If you want to talk about it in the way that you did before.
Yeah. 866-90 Red Eye.
Surviving and thriving as an owner-operator has just as much to do with managing costs as it does with generating revenue. Understanding basic principles of operating costs can save you thousands of dollars a year. Costs are not the same each month. If 9,600 miles are driven one month and 10,000 miles the next, two different sets of costs apply for each month. For example, if your tractor payment is $1,850 per month and you drive 9,600 miles in the month, your tractor payment is costing you 19.3 cents per mile. Drive 10,000 miles, though, and that same payment will cost you 18.5 cents per mile. This is one of your major fixed costs while paying off a truck loan. The difference in this example is only a fraction of a cent, which may seem like small change, but it ultimately amounts to $960 more annually on the bottom line. Because though fixed costs do not go down over time, you can reduce your cost per mile with more paid miles. Owner-Operator Business 101 is provided by Shell Rotella. Shell Rotella, with advanced synthetic technology, is designed to help keep your rig running with more mileage and less maintenance.
We'll be right back with more Red Eye Radio with Eric Harley and Gary McNamara.
It's Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Coming up following the bottom of the hour, a major newspaper editorial agrees almost exactly with what we said about the FISA court yesterday. So we will, and secret warrants. We'll get to that. But just talking about the presidential candidates out there for the Republicans with DeSantis today, and we were referring to an article from Town Hall magazine with Kurt Schlichter, who was talking really about the fact it's Trump or DeSantis and winning. Mm-hmm. Basically, that's what it was about, that all these other candidates really don't matter because they don't have the thing that they're not promoting. They may have it, but they're promoting, for example, that, okay, let's be optimistic, and that's not what's needed right now. What's needed is you can still be an optimist. I love the United States, but we got major problems that need to be fixed now. And when you think about it, when you think, for example, of these are the things that I think of, that I look back upon and say and understand the political opposition that exists out there. And I look at Black Lives Matter and what happened there. Mm-hmm. And I see all the corporations that folded and the sports leagues that folded and the liberal wave, the blue wave of intimidation the tsunami that just swept over this country, where, damn it, you better agree with this lie. And if you don't agree with the lie, we'll destroy your life. Liberal transgender activist movement, the same thing. Critical race theory, the same thing. That's the point about it. They're all lies, and it's become an integral part of society to lie and then force people to believe your lie. And if you don't, you destroy their lives. Well, you need, I mean, there's the budget, there's all the stuff we need to talk about, defense, budget, foreign relations, and all that. But that's internally in a country what destroys a country. When you feel the forces of the government are so powerful that you must celebrate and accept lies. Otherwise, your life will be destroyed.
Yep.
You're listening to Red Eye Radio from the Uniden America Studios.
And he's Eric Hurley, and I'm Gary McNamara. So this is the Wall Street Journal basically stating what we said on yesterday's show. The Durham report recently revealed how the FBI opened its Trump-Russia investigation in 2016 without any actual evidence of collusion. Now, a newly unsealed court document reveals that the Bureau conducted thousands of improper searches on American citizens under Section 702 of the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act. The numbers are astounding. The document issued by the secret FISA court says the FBI improperly conducted 278,000 warrantless searches on U.S. citizens. The presiding judge of the FISA court issued his ruling in April of 22, but it was only made public on Friday. It deals with the Section 702 powers that are used to spy on the electronic communications of foreign nationals overseas, but can incidentally include communications with Americans. The searches must reasonably be aimed at gathering foreign intelligence or evidence of a crime. The sheer volume of improper searches confirms the judge's observation that the Bureau's compliance problems have proven persistent and widespread. For example, more than 19,000 donors of a failed but unnamed congressional campaign were searched without sufficient cause. FISA courts were designed to prevent abuses by giving judges a say in the collection of foreign intelligence. But as we've learned, this did not stop the FBI from lying on its FISA application to spy on former Trump aide Carter Page. FISA court oversight also has not stopped the hundreds of thousands of Section 702 noncompliance searches. Judge Contreras said he was encouraged by the FBI's new search procedures, and the FBI says the number of improper searches has dropped considerably since introducing them, but he warned that if the problems continue, the court would have to consider other responses. Here's one possibility: abolish the FISA court. Congress created FISA in late 1970s in response to government's wiretap abuse. At the time, legal minds such as Robert Bork and Lawrence Silberman warned that it was a bad idea. Bork wrote on these pages of the Wall Street Journal that the real effect of introducing judges into the foreign intelligence decisions and executive function would have the effect of immunizing everyone from the responsibility of their actions. And that's exactly what's happened. You know, you and I go back to the FISA court.
Yeah.
We go back to April of 2017. When the FISA court said all the way back to 2011 that the Obama administration wasn't following the rules.
Yeah, John Solomon and Sarah A. Carter actually had the documents from the previous October of 2016 when the Obama administration basically went to the FISA court and said, Yeah, we know that you told us to quit violating citizens' rights, but we didn't do that. Sorry.
So so it was supposed to be straightened out then. More abuses happened. No one has been held accountable for any of it at all. None of it. We go back to even earlier, the NSA with the domestic wiretapping.
Right.
You look at all that. Nobody was ever held responsible for any of these things. Americans' rights are by the hundreds of thousands.
Right. And they keep repeating, they keep implementing a fix. On the FBI thing, they went through a number of things where, okay, we're gonna have to change the policy between 2016, I think, and 2019 or 2020. And okay, they went in and they put in a fix and said we're gonna do this differently. Then violated the fix 278,000 times.
Bork wrote on these pages that the real effect of introducing judges into the foreign intelligence decision would mean no one would be held responsible for any actions.
Right.
That's exactly what has happened.
Exactly.
That's what you and I talked about yesterday.
Yep.
Without FISA courts, FBI agents and supervisors could not use the court's oversight as a political shield. They'd have to answer for their actions to the voters and Congress, which could still do oversight.
Yep.
The news about FISA abuses is now going to complicate President Biden's request that Congress reauthorize Section 702 before it expires on December 31st. Section 702, when used properly, is a vital intelligence tool in defending against foreign threats such as terrorism, but abuse is diluting public and political support for 702, a process that erodes accountability, is worse than none at all.
Well, because they found a back door. I mean, and that is a solid point. It has been an important tool, especially in the war on terror. But what happens inevitably? Well, but they also use it. Anyone with an agenda can use it as a tool to connect it to American citizens, not because American citizens are becoming terrorists. Well, it depends on who you ask. I guess if you ask the left, if someone says that they're a patriot, then that they're a domestic terrorist. If they go to a school board meeting, they're a domestic terrorist. But this is the problem, is that it gave those with an agenda another tool, as a big tool that has clearly been used and abused over the years.
Not once.
No,
not twice.
Right.
Not 50 times.
Right.
Hundreds of thousands of times.
The Obama administration in October of 2016, days before the election. Sorry, FISA court, we know you told us to quit violating citizens' rights, and you told us to do that, and it goes back to 2011, but we didn't do that.
We didn't do that.
We never did that. The FBI, well, we got to fix what happened between 2016 and 2020 with this, all these queries, and how that works. We're gonna clean that up because that's wrong, as they wave their finger in this disingenuous Bill Clinton way, and then turn around. And we learned from the release from the ODNI last Friday that they violated the fix that they put in. They said, we're not going to do that again. And then they did it 278,000 times. I don't know how.
If this had happened in the 70s, I'm old enough to remember.
Yeah.
This would have been the number one story.
Oh, it would have been the story. I mean, this would have been major scandal.
And maybe it's, again, my age. But I remember, that's why when I saw this story on Friday, I said, well, this is the biggest story out there. And I went through the week. This story died as if nobody cares anymore.
Right.
And it used to be, the left would scream bloody murder over something like this. Complete and total silence. I haven't heard one Democrat speak on this.
Well, we haven't heard any Democrats. I mean, Chuck Todd mentioned it, about the FBI and, the rot and what, but he didn't attack it the way.
No, but I mean, this specific story, he was talking more about
The overall.
He was talking about the Durham report.
Right,
Yeah, but I'm talking about this. If you ever had, think about this for true conservatives and old school liberals. Civil rights was huge, and government warrantless wiretapping, warrantless searches is something that is at the heart of the Constitution.
Oh, my gosh. Yeah.
Absolutely at the heart of the Constitution.
Well, at one time, we were all Rand Paul.
Yeah, we were. Yeah, you're
on,
right.
On something like
you're
this.
Right. Yep, we were. Yep.
And now the media makes Rand Paul, when he brings something like this up, a Rand Paul or any conservative that brings this up, makes them look like a kook. Or at the very least, they just simply ignore it. I mean, Reuters did a story on it, but it's Reuters. And I mean, they're not going to get that much domestic attention from the loud voices. There are no loud voices on this. You said it. We came in Sunday night. This story didn't go anywhere.
It was a number one. Yeah.
It dropped on Friday.
Yeah, it was the number one thing that we brought up. I was like,
and this isn't
what's going on? Why is
this is not a source story? This is from the Office of the Director of National Intelligence. They're the ones that released the report on Friday.
Right, but the report's from the FISA court.
Right, I know.
Right.
No, it's on the FISA court filing. But the Office of the ODNI released what came out on Friday. That's how we learned about it.
No, but the report that came out on Friday is about the FISA court's response.
I know that.
Right.
Which is from April of last year.
Right.
And so when the ODNI released this on Friday, this was not a source story at Fox News.
No.
This was directly from the Office of the Director of National Intelligence.
And the public will never find out who all of these people were because everything is top secret.
Yep.
So they've created something where nobody is held accountable for breaking the law.
Right. And
no, constantly in warrantless, wiretapping searches, whatever, because we don't know what they did.
No.
Because it's top secret. We can't talk about it.
Right.
So we never find out. Nobody's ever held accountable.
There's the cover you get. There's the cover they get in a system that is set up now that inevitably was going to get to this point. It was going to be abused. There was no way it wasn't going to be abused. And it really is a shame. Because in the war on terror, intel is everything. And it's not over. We created a terrorism superstate in Afghanistan.
But those in the FBI that allowed this to happen don't give a damn about terrorism.
No, they don't.
Because if you truly give a damn about terrorism, then you don't misuse the FISA court.
Well, this is it. How many directors do we have to go through and show you their, and not just directors, but top level agents, people like Peter Strzok, McCabe, Mueller in his day, Comey, all of these individuals, and we talked about this when Comey was testifying. We said he does not talk like law enforcement. He does not use the words. He doesn't speak that language. They have their own language, and you can, when they're talking, when an agent is talking, when someone from law enforcement and has that kind of experience is talking, you hear those words, and they're speaking that law enforcement language. He talks like a politician. He talks like somebody with an agenda because he has an agenda.
And because if you're in law enforcement and you understand that, the true terrorist threat out there, you honor the FISA process.
Absolutely.
Why? Because you don't want to lose it.
You don't want to lose it. You know how important it is to preserve.
And so they didn't give a damn about.
No.
Think about this. The top echelon that approves and is involved in the FISA process in the FBI did not give a damn about terrorism. All they cared about was, can we use this for some political purpose?
Right. Oh, they have a greater loyalty.
Yeah.
Comey has a greater loyalty to his agenda.
866-90-RED-EYE.
Coming up, more with Gary McNamara and Eric Harley. It's Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Coming up, the fight of public pensions, not to have their money be invested in climate change.
Yeah,
crap.
Right.
That pension funds should not be in the business of losing money.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
We'll get these are New York City employees, and this is a New York City pension fund. Do you remember? We were working together. Remember, was it ExxonMobil that had their meeting one time?
Yeah,
in Dallas,
mm-hmm.
and it was where some of the
activist investors
were talking about the climate change stuff, and it was the unions. They found out that the public unions of New York had a ton of money invested in ExxonMobil, and they were the ones that defeated that. And we're like, wow, it's the New York City public unions that are all liberal that said, no, the goal is to ensure that we maximize the potential so we can remain solvent as a pension program so our retirees can retire.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
And so, again,
that's the idea.
The big liberal circular firing squad there, too. So we will get to that coming up. Target, DeSantis, that Hunter College professor who was fired after vandalizing a pro-life display, then threatening that New York Post reporter.
Yeah.
Wow. That's the politics of rage that exists out there on the left.
Yep.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One. Now, it's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
All across America and around the world, we are Red Eye Radio. Good morning. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. I like this story here. A number of major coal operators in the Commonwealth of Kentucky made a surprising political move on Tuesday, announcing their endorsements of incumbent Democrat Governor Andy Beshear for re-election over his Republican challenger. The endorsements included the United Mine Workers of America and multiple leaders of Kentucky's coal industry. Come amid what many have described as the Biden administration's war on coal and the Democratic Party's rush towards green energy. Beshear appears to be bucking the trend, similar to one of his fellow Democrats, Joe Manchin of West Virginia, another coal-friendly state. Idiots.
Well,
absolute idiots.
We talked about it in 2008. West Virginia Coal Miners Union endorsing Obama, who by that time had already said, under my plan of cap and trade, electricity rates will necessarily skyrocket. And he mentioned coal in the following sentence, how he was going to bankrupt
the
them.
coal company, and the West Virginia Coal Miners Union endorsed him in 2008. Then they didn't endorse anybody in 2012.
Right. Now, to be fair, Romney was the nominee.
And if Beshear says it doesn't matter, it's the party that he's in.
Yep.
Even if he, like Manchin, is saying, well, we need to save the coal industry.
While his party is shutting it down.
While his party's shutting it down, you're not getting anywhere by doing that.
Right.
It's absolutely foolish.
Right.
But again, we deal all the time on the left with people that are voting to help destroy themselves. I mean, look at right now. I mean, look when you see defund the police.
Mm-hmm.
You go through the Democrats who vote. I mean, I'm talking about Democratic voters. They don't want to defund the police.
No.
I mean, they're part of the abstract. Police are all racist except ours.
Mm-hmm.
It's the what I call the congressional mindset. Congress sucks except for my congressperson.
Yes.
But the Democrats are still talking about defunding the police. Gerald Nadler was proudly saying, well, it's going into mental health and the situation in New York City is awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Really?
Yeah. New York City is safe. But over and over again, we not only make the choice, we beg to be destroyed.
It's the Kevin Bacon syndrome.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, sir. May I have another?
Yep.
From Animal House.
Hey, I'm not quite done yet. Could you keep crushing me, please?
I mean,
hey, you don't have your boot properly on my neck. Could you press a little harder? I mean, seriously, that's not just giving up. That's begging to be destroyed.
Then this story from the other day, college graduation commencement speakers, overwhelmingly liberal,
Real.
Segregated ceremonies on the rise.
Yeah.
Because the new anti-racism is racism.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just...
You know, it's everywhere.
They did a poll out of 100 schools surveyed, 100 colleges surveyed by the Young Americans for Freedom survey. An overwhelming 60 liberal speakers were identified, while only one conservative voice made its way to the podium. Well, yeah, but Liberty University doesn't count, or Hillsdale doesn't count.
Right. Wow. Yeah.
They report that there were 86 out of those 100 schools they surveyed organized segregated ceremonies for the class of 2023.
Told you. We talked about that earlier.
Yeah. And this is why when we talked about Republican candidates and talking about Kurt Schlichter's column in Town Hall, which said it's, basically it's got to be Trump or DeSantis, and winning is the only game.
Yeah.
Because the rest of the candidates out there basically are milquetoast.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, let's be positive. No, that's not what's needed right now. What's needed is a fierceness to go after your political enemy that lies on every single issue, and on the majority of the issues are racist, as we know here, are racist with the liberal transgender activist movement, misogynist and sexist, fiscally irresponsible to the point of destroying the country, wanting to put much more debt and skyrocket inflation by spending much more money. And it's like there's a certain fierceness that is needed. There's a certain fierceness that's needed to fight racism of the Democrats and of liberalism today. And so, but there it is right there. I mean, and that's the problem. It's everywhere.
Yeah,
it's everywhere in our institutions today. You look at it. The rot exists in college campuses, major law enforcement, and the Democratic Party, which is, again, one of the two major parties in the United States.
Mm-hmm. Remember when
it's institutionalized.
Remember when Obama gave the commencement speech? I forget where it was, and he basically was saying, listen, don't leave here and spend your life on a computer, spend all your time on a computer. Basically what he was saying we broke it down, and it's very clear to us. Listen, we properly indoctrinated you. Don't go getting smart on us. Stay away from that Googles, would you? Don't research things. Don't you dare think for yourself.
We've indoctrinated you now.
Exactly. Don't undo all that. That's like working out and then going through the drive-thru at McDonald's. You don't want to do that.
You've got your college degree, and just like the movie They Live, obey.
Yeah, exactly.
That was on the other day.
Was it? I haven't seen that in
wow.
so long.
I had to stop and I mean, I caught it in the middle of it, but I don't know what it is about that movie. I'm changing the words a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
I came here to chew bubble gum and kick some butt.
Yeah.
And I'm all out of bubble gum.
Greatest line. That line has lived on forever.
Rowdy
well,
Piper.
since then, it would. And what was great about it too, the movie had a really cool, cheesy sci-fi feel, which is
it had a
it fit. It was perfect.
But you know something? It had a B movie feel.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it was a B movie.
Yeah.
But it had a B movie. It was almost as if the B movie feel, was deliberate.
No,
like
I think
the movie would not be the same unless it felt like an independent production or a kind of B movie.
If you look at the John Wick movies, we all kind of laugh at how many shots are fired in one. I mean, they started from the first one. You know, how many shots were fired in that movie during that movie? How many people did he take out in that movie? And it's the over-the-top approach of the movie, which is kind of like the approach in a B movie, that actually people are attracted to. That makes it one of those escapism movies. The other day, they celebrated that the franchise itself collectively has made over $1 billion. All four combined.
Wow. Well, you know, it reminded me, because I often thought when you just said that in They Live, the fight scene between Piper and the actor Keith David.
Oh, yeah.
You know, in the alleyway.
Yeah.
That was supposed to last 20 seconds.
Yeah.
That thing, and they just said they just decided to, you know, it was, you know, faking the hits to the face and groin, as they said, but everything else in it was really real. Mm. They decided to let it go, and that went on for remember that fight was like, when is this thing going to end?
Yeah, right.
And to me, that had a John Wick feel to it. It's
exactly.
Like, okay, this thing's just over the top.
Right.
But yeah, I saw that the other day. So every time I think about what's going on, the brainwashing and liberalism, I don't know why, but They Live always comes to mind, and all the signs.
Right.
Obey.
Right.
Especially obey. That's the one that you remember.
No, that one more than ever now.
Yeah, you put on those sunglasses and you just see obey. Mm-hmm. Obey without question. We'll lie to you and just obey.
Yeah.
I do like it, though, when he's in the store and the one woman's there and he's like got the glasses and, you know, you can see her real alien face. Mm-hmm. You are one ugly SOB.
Yeah.
What a great movie.
You know, you don't have to have special glasses to see right through the liberal agenda. And
no, you don't.
Over and over again, they prove, you know, exactly what they want.
And
look, to the point that it started with, you need to let us have our moment. You need to let us have our parade. Then it was, you need to march in the parade. Then it was, wait a minute, you're not saying anything. Silence is violence. And now it's, oh, wait a minute. You can't be in our parade. This is our parade. Separate the parade now into 10 different groups.
Right. You need to celebrate it all, but you can't be in it.
But don't go anywhere. Don't think you can just walk away. Yeah.
Oh, man.
Yeah, that's today's
I just,
left.
You know, things are so insane. They have to change because it's just, the one thing that liberalism hasn't figured out yet is our Constitution is pretty solid, and there's a core of half the country that might have been intimidated, but, with especially the Black Lives, because I think the Black Lives Matter, critical race theory, and the liberal transgender activist movement was the three big lies over the last 6 or 7 years that have been perpetuated upon the American people, that they felt like they were just intimidated. They felt like they couldn't say anything. And now the fight back has started. And it's going to be a long, hard fight because they're not going to give up.
Yeah,
because the politics of rage, and you see that, the New York City professor and the insanity, of her at the pro-life table. And then when a New York Post reporter went to her door, and now she was fired. Was she arrested?
I don't know. I was wondering that myself. I haven't seen whether or not she was, but she was fired.
Came out the door with a machete, which the New York Post, which was just the most
weird
bizarre thing. I mean, my God,
who uses a machete?
But that's the politics of rage. You saw it. We saw it. We played that Nebraska State Senator who did the same thing. I'm just going to scream. I'm going to start soft, get louder, scream.
Yeah.
And it's I think Turley used the word amplification. He added that to rage.
Yeah.
There's a certain that the arguing on the left is not about attempting to convince you by going point by point why they're right. It's simply amplification and rage.
Yeah, and
you scream.
That's the intimidation.
You scream, and that's really because you see it in the liberal transgender activist movement, especially, and you see it from other liberals, and you see it especially on college campuses.
Right.
And that can't cut it long term. Here's the thing. I worried a lot more during the summer of 2020 when so many corporations were just, by the way, did you see the fiscal numbers came out for Black Lives Matter? Oh, we'll get to that. Not doing well at all.
Yeah, surprise.
Hemorrhaging money, donations down 88%. They were a con job for everybody who bought it, everybody on the left who bought it.
Yep.
And even a lot of independents who bought the lies of Black Lives Matter.
Right.
And so, the reality's now hitting. But I think America realizes, my God, we were just BS left and right. And they were so fearful. And finally, I think when you've had people standing up, and I think Riley Gaines, is one of them who is, and slowly bringing along other people that are saying, this is a load of, horse manure.
Yeah. Right.
And that's what it is.
Right.
And the critical race theory is a load of horse manure.
Yep.
And you can't soft sell it. There is no. My dad used to tell me a long time ago, as conservative as he was, he would say, there are some things, you look at Republicans, but Democrats come up with some good things. About 10 years ago, I told him, Dad, Democrats are coming up with no good things. When I tell him now what's going on, and he doesn't pay attention to the news as much anymore, he's absolutely shocked. He goes, really? Really?
Yeah.
They're saying biological males can be a biological female because the biological female or the biological male says so? I go, yeah.
My dad was, always willing to listen. As a seasoned investigator, you kind of have to look at everything. And then, I don't know how long it was ago, where he just started asking me, what is going on? What is wrong with them? What is wrong with people that they're going to this extent over and over again? And that's basically where our conversation starts every time I visit with him. And, it's and that's it.
We'll continue on this point. 866-90-RED-EYE.
Lines open for your calls. 866-90-RED-EYE on Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Hurley, and I'm Gary McNamara. So, I was thinking about this when we were talking about colleges and that New York City college professor and how incredibly, insanely liberal so many of these college systems have become. And we talked about this the other day. Is a downfall of the modern college system going to be because of AI?
I think that's a really good question because I thought about that more yesterday during the day after we talked about it on yesterday's show. We're just kind of floating the idea of what a lot of people are talking about right now, and that is, what is the future of AI? What does it mean? What roles will humans be in the marketplace, in the job thing? And education really, I think, is going to change. I believe there's no way it won't change drastically. I just don't know how fast. I tend to believe it will be faster than the changes we have seen historically, because the fact that AI is advancing so quickly, or it's becoming more available quicker to people in terms of what people can utilize in their daily lives and apply that daily. So then the demand for an education changes. And I don't know what that looks like. I really don't.
And I say this because the one thing that comes with AI is a focus on productivity, efficiency and productivity, like we've never seen before.
Mm-hmm.
Because we haven't, well, I won't say that. We have seen it. We have seen it, for example, in mass production.
Mm-hmm.
Mass production created, an efficiency and productivity that we didn't see before in actually producing, for example, automobiles to make them available.
Yeah,
and so that was, we'll continue this coming up here, but just a couple of points on what happens to colleges overall with AI coming up.
On your smart speaker, say, play Red Eye Radio. And, if you're really nice, she might. Red Eye Radio.
And he's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. All right, so when we talk about, where colleges are going, and this is all part due to the, we had talked earlier about the commencement speeches. Vast majority are liberal. What was the other figure that was out there that they were talking about? 86 out of 100 that they surveyed were having segregated graduations. And yesterday we started talking about how AI will affect industry, but how will it affect education? And we just started talking about the fact that AI is going to bring in, probably since mass production, probably one of the greatest increases in productivity and efficiency, which means that will be the mindset of people running the corporations, correct?
Yeah, sure.
I mean, I don't think I'm wrong on that, that if you're talking about, all right, we're adding AI because now we're about efficiency and productivity. You look at DEI in companies today, and you see what's happening in Target.
Mm-hmm.
The whole Target thing. This thing's going to boom. This is this thing's going to boomerang back again because they had these, displays, out front, and now they're moving them in back. So you've got the liberal transgender activist movement now believing that's part of the caving that's going on. So just like Bud Light, you can't win this.
Right.
So you've got right now major corporations wondering whether they all made a mistake with the whole DEI thing that's going on here. Because what is it doing? It's costing them money, and it's not increasing anything in their bottom line. It's the same thing with ESG in investments.
Right. Yes. Yeah.
And the same thing. It was cool for a while until it starts dragging down the bottom line.
Well, it sounds all noble at the beginning. Then you start implementing it. And on the ESG thing, major investors said, if that's where you're going, we're out.
We're out. Yep. And so it was great to begin with. But then the flaws become apparent.
Yeah.
It isn't increasing productivity and efficiency, so it's gone.
Mm-hmm.
And so when will it be gone? So then you go and you look at, what is the feeder system for so much of the white collar jobs out there? That would be a college degree.
Yeah.
Now, in business degrees, I don't know how they will be affected. But when you start talking about, gender studies degrees, for the most part, they're useless to begin with, even when DEI and ESG have been at their prime the last couple of years. Was like, okay, this is the cool thing to do. That's gone.
Yeah.
And you look at already, what is it? What did we look at the other day? Was it 10 or 12% the college enrollment's down?
Yeah.
And that's the great correction. People saying, all right, the return on the investment is not there. Basically, let's put it this way. Everything goes back to economics.
Yeah, well, it does.
And economics is incentive and disincentive. Or, as somebody wrote one time, it's the same thing, incentive. If there's a disincentive, it's just less incentive. And I went,
yeah, right.
Okay, but everything in economics is based on incentive, and people do what is for their best self-interest, or what they think is for their best self-interest. Then they learn at times, well, that wasn't for my best self-interest. Then they go searching for what's for their best self-interest. Mm-hmm. And that is just undeniable in economics. I mean, that's just how how humans are set up.
Right.
So what happens to colleges? Everyone knows, the vast majority of people. You don't think that the vast majority of people at those college campuses don't know that the segregated graduations are wrong? They know they're wrong. People aren't stupid. They understand what the whole civil rights movement was about. People understand what Martin Luther King was talking about. Everybody coming together, judging people by the content of their character, not by the color of their skin. Mm-hmm. They know what's wrong. But on the college campuses, like the New York City professor out there, they are so intimidated, these young people, by these college professors, by I guess you could say the systemic and institutionalized racism, misogyny, and sexism that exist on college campuses today with CRT and the liberal transgender activist movement. It's got to end.
Yeah.
It's like we talk about, when is the Democratic Party going to have, when are they going to have to change? When they start failing and losing elections. Right now, why are the Democrats winning elections?
Because people are letting them get away with their agenda.
People are getting with their agenda, and the Republicans are not putting up the right candidates.
Yeah, which is where we started the show. We have a GOP that has relatively few that actually want to fight.
Yep, and the others that want to fight are fighting the wrong things.
Right. Yeah,
and so you can throw abortion in there, but if you explain abortion right, you can win. Sure. You can win in states. Because the majority of people don't agree with the left on it. Mm-hmm. Everything is about, and we used to get flack about this all the time. We don't as much anymore.
Right.
But we were right on it.
Yep.
Communicating your message effectively is key in everything in life. Everything.
Yep.
We see it all the time. You're at work. Management versus employees, middle management versus, what top management wants, what middle management actually tells the employee, and the employee feels that there is no communication between, somehow there's a disconnect, because what upper management says they want the employees to be doing is not what middle management is telling the employees. Well, that's a lack of effective communication through that flow chart of management. You're not effectively communicating. Everything is about communicating a message effectively.
With that conviction behind you, you're combining that fight, that conviction, with the actual content of the message. That's how you can become effective.
And that we've had this discussion today on politics right now, and based on an article we read earlier that said, look, it's Trump or DeSantis. and it's about winning. That's it. That's where the Republicans are right now, or where they will be. That all the other candidates, whether it's Tim Scott, they like him a lot, but what is he running on? I'm positive, and we love America. That's a given.
Yeah.
That's a given right now. We've got serious challenges. You have a unique situation in politics right now in the United States. Probably around the world you have it. And that's where liberalism has said we're caring and we wish to save the planet and we care more than everybody else. All of their plans that were abstract. Okay, let's try it because I care more.
Yeah,
they care more. We're saving the planet. We're doing this is now running up against those abstract concepts are now running up against reality. And reality is saying it doesn't work.
Yep.
Across the board. On every single issue out there, to the point now where people realize, and I told you I had the conversation over the weekend with a couple of young, very young people in their 20s that I went, okay, wonder how they think. And, and you notice things and it's like, okay, you have a lot of metal in your face and quite a few tattoos. They knew everything that was going on. Yep. Disagreed with everything that was going on, didn't agree with the transgender activist movement, knew that energy couldn't be provided through wind and solar. Like, okay, they know, everybody knows. You can figure this stuff out.
Right.
And there's eventually going to be a backlash when people aren't afraid anymore to confront the intimidation of liberalism that has been institutionalized. And that's the thing. When liberalism is institutionalized inside of a government or a law enforcement agency, that's dangerous. When it's institutionalized inside of a police department, it's dangerous. When we talk about critical race theory, which is just an offshoot of identity politics. There may have been different authors of it, but it's the same thing. We judge people by groups and not individuals.
Right.
That's eventually going to fall apart because people don't buy into it, but that's racism. You're not judging anybody as an individual. Eventually that's going to fall apart, but when you have that when that is a mainstay of the Democratic Party, it isn't just the squad that believes that. The mainstream of the Democratic Party all voted for the fact that a biological male can be a biological female if the biological male says so. They all support judging people by groups and not individuals. They have recognized, part of the Democratic Party has recognized, even though they've been intimidated to shut up, they recognize the problem with identity politics and judging people by groups and not individuals. So these are all things that are in the colleges today, which have nothing to do with what AI will be demanding of industry and business, which is more efficiency and productivity. It's the opposite of that. And that's why, again, I don't know where it's going to end, but I know what's in the equation. And I know that AI is going to be probably since mass production came in. Now, here's the other difference, too. Mass production actually took away a lot of the people that were craftsmen and made them assembly line workers.
Yeah.
Which means they weren't as technically advanced. Now, there were more of those jobs, so more people could come off the farms and into these jobs and work these jobs and move up. But AI is doing the opposite. AI is taking away from those assembly, a lot of the assembly line worker jobs and creating what? Very highly educated worker jobs. And so when they talk about the jobs are going to be replaced, yeah, but most of the time, well, all of the time we've seen it, that technology has actually increased the total number of jobs. Where those jobs will be, I don't know yet, because I don't know how entwined AI will actually get into business and industry. And there's some projections out there from the futurists, but who knows if they're good, if how correct they are in their predictions. But we do know why we're moving towards AI, and it's only one thing: productivity and efficiency.
Right.
And so that's not what colleges are providing. Well, so there are departments in colleges, engineering schools, things like that are. But
I even wonder about the trade schools, even, outside of engineering. I wonder about the trade schools as well, because AI will also change how we do those jobs that are learned in those trade schools.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the difference is that in those, you're still going to have a much greater need for that human presence on that job in that type of application. But I do believe, I said it yesterday, the learning curve is going to be pretty steep because it's going to happen quickly because of the way that AI works. You basically have taken, like with Chat GPT, what that is use Google, round up that information, and then make it do this. And at the moment, it seems like a David Blaine magic trick. But if you think about what it's actually doing, it's applying something based on a directive that you gave it. Now, the good news is it requires that directive. It requires that human input. Now, that can be then used as a tool in whichever way. Mm-hmm. But in learning something in the educational process, look how much time is wasted. You often see it with students that want to excel. They want to go, above and beyond. They want to, kind of get through the process because they realize, I don't want to sit here. It's not going to be my college experience. I want to get my education, and then I want to go out and live my life. I'm not looking for the college campus experience or whatever it is.
No.
I want to get it, and I want to go use it. And I think that is what will change more and more. I think it was already changing, but I think with AI, it's going to accelerate.
I'm amazed at the number of people that are taking college courses online right now.
Oh, yeah. It's and all the schools now. By the way, it used to be that an online course or degree was not accepted in the marketplace.
It is now.
It is widely accepted now.
866-90 Red Eye.
Get in touch with Red Eye Radio, toll free at 866-90 Red Eye.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. We'll get more talking about AI and everything, and not just industry, but more, I think, talking about what will happen to the college experience and what will happen to these major colleges that are so liberal but really aren't teaching anything about productivity and efficiency when that's all AI is about.
Yeah.
Coming up.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One. Now, it's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
All across the USA and around the world, we are Red Eye Radio. I'm Gary McNamara. He is Eric Harley.
Hello.
Got into a discussion on AI and the effects on industry, but we did that yesterday, but more of the effects on education. And immediately we've already gotten responses where people are talking about AI, and this is something that you've heard especially over the last couple of weeks. Because really the discussion of AI has only been, about a month old?
Yeah. Right.
With the whole Chat GPT website out there and app and everything else that you can check out. And so I've already got feedback in us just talking about it the last half hour or so well, it's going to make it easier to perpetuate lies. I don't know if it'll make it easier. I mean, perpetuating lies, is you feed it into the system and it's a lie, but still, you can go on, you can go through all the major media, go through all the networks. There are lies that are told every single day. We still know what the truth is.
Mm-hmm.
So whether a lie exists in AI or not, we'll still know whether it's a lie.
Yeah.
You're not going to be, AI won't make it. Now, you can brainwash people, but human beings are doing that right now. Human beings are brainwashing young kids in college all the time. We're talking about specifically, to stick on this topic, AI in the use in industry.
Right. And also how it will change the educational process.
Right. Well, right, in industry and how that will change the educational process. Mm-hmm. And as we said, will it be something that will hurt liberalism in the colleges, because the colleges can only exist and these major institutions can only exist if you have students willing to pay a very high tuition to get in.
Right.
And we know that in many colleges, enrollment is down over the last couple of years. I think it's 10% or over, like 10 or 12%, which is huge when you think about it. We did that story, a couple of weeks ago. We understand that AI can be used for nefarious purposes.
Yeah.
And to promote a lie. In fact, ChatGPT, people have already gone in it and said, well, that's not true.
Right.
That's not true.
Well, because it gathers information whether it's accurate or not.
You're right. Exactly.
It doesn't recognize what is accurate, what is true, what is not. It just gathers something based on a directive and those keywords used in that directive. That's basically all that does.
Right. So the purpose in business and industry, for the most part, there's always the exception.
Yeah.
How will ESG funds use it? But it's still not going to change it. AI is not. Nothing changes economics.
Mm-hmm.
But in business and industry, AI. Why is the interest in AI there? Productivity and efficiency. That's it.
Yep.
We can make more money with fewer human beings, but the jobs that will be created because of AI will take a lot more education.
Yeah.
So are the colleges, and there are great engineering schools, but there's going to be a lot more of these jobs if AI actually replaces the number of jobs, which means the AI systems you're going to need, which are both software, hardware, and actually machines. I saw one the other day that can rotate tires.
Yeah.
They can rotate tires off a vehicle.
Right, yeah.
But when I go in, because of the computer systems in the vehicles today, I go in and went to the dealership last week. It's loaded with techs.
Oh, yeah.
Are all those techs going to go away? Nope.
No, in fact, it will just change their educational process.
Right.
And they'll have, like they do now, more tools, more things to deal with. And for us, that the consumers of the product, vehicles and whatever, it's going to mean more headaches. But it will, or not. I mean, different types of headaches, maybe fewer headaches, and they're just different in nature. People will tell you, and we say it occasionally, well, man, the cars today. And as a, I don't know, novice shade tree, I wouldn't even call myself a full-on shade tree kind of guy in terms of mechanics. I wouldn't even start to try and do my own maintenance on things, in cars that deal with the computer system and everything else. So those are the things that will, and had already begun to change. What we're seeing here again is the acceleration of that.
And when you start talking about AI that can learn, it's like, okay, but can it learn in practical purposes? And I don't know the answer to that. We were told that automation in cars was going to be by this time a lot more successful than it's actually been.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
because there's so many variables that exist that the human mind can instantly process. You know, I look. This is one thing that I've always thought of, and this is the one example. And if I don't know if most people can relate to it, but this is the one thing that I related to in one thing in my life, and I started thinking, well, can technology actually get to this particular point, or are there just too many variables? And to create a system like that, you know, how many instances that humans can relate to instantaneously can a machine? And this is the example that I give. I played basketball my whole life. And what I noticed is that when I played outside, and I played outside so much, that you actually have the ability, when you go up to shoot a shot, Eric, because there's wind, you actually can figure that out in your mind.
Yeah.
It takes a while, but once you do it, you know, you can be in the air. So there you are in the air with the ball in your hand. You're maybe, you know, jumping, moving to the side. In that second, the wind is blowing. Now, you can't calculate. I'm not calculating in my mind that wind is 7 miles an hour, 8 miles an hour.
But yet your body accommodates it.
My body accommodates it, and you actually go up and you just go, okay, I put it over there, and it goes in. Now, you've got to be a pretty good basketball player to make the shot to begin with, being in the air and maybe moving a little bit, you know, as you're in the air to the left or right. But the fact is you add another variable to it, the wind speed, and you're like, okay, and you actually put it up, and now it doesn't go in every time.
Mm-hmm.
But you can get to it where you become extremely accurate. And that thought always went through my head, instead of sitting there and trash talking everybody else. I go back down. I went, but this is a few years back because I can't play ball anymore. My knees and everything else can't take it. Mm-hmm. But I'd be going down, instead of thinking, you know, trash talking, I'd be going, wow, now how did my body do that? I mean, can a computer do that, or can artificial intelligence in the future do that? And those are just some of the questions. And when you see the problems they've had with the autonomous cars, you know, that's when you say, okay, are there so many variables that it can't figure it out because every corner is different?
Yeah.
Every intersection is different. If every intersection was exactly the same, yeah, but it's not.
Which is why, like with Tesla, what it's doing, it's actually remapping as more and more cars, cars, travel the highways, travel the roads. They upload that information. It becomes part of that database. But the question is, and I would. It's funny because you were talking about, like, okay, you're not sitting there actually doing the math on the wind, but you're going to accommodate it. You're going to change what you're doing because your body is measuring it, and your mind actually is measuring it, and then your body responds to that.
Right.
The car responds, let's say, to an object in the road, or a human in the road, right, on newer technology. What it doesn't do, it doesn't respond with instinct. That if you're a human paying attention, and I find myself surprising myself how lightning fast I can be when it's not even a potentially deadly situation, and my reflex just kicks in. The reflex is built on an instinct, and that instinct, in that case, a potentially deadly situation, is that preservation of that life. The last thing you want to do is run over somebody that is on the road. And so your body responds in a different way with a different incentive, and I'm not saying it's computing faster than the system on the car, but your body is responding, getting to the ultimate point of braking in lightning speed, and for a different reason. Now, I have no idea what that type of technology looks like 20 years from now. But I do know that with experience with that technology so far, it seems to be lagging in that it's the calculation is measured. It is a measured. It sees something, and then there's going to always be the same amount of time that it responds, because that's how the system in the car works. Your brain works differently, and those are the different human things you can't replace.
And so when you and so it's interesting to talk all about this, but when it comes to colleges, for example, are companies going to be, for example, we have a society now that is much more comfortable now in front of the computer actually learning. I said, I can't believe the number of people I know that are taking online courses. Now, you need to be an engineer, I think, and to be somebody good at a lot of technical things, more than just sitting in front of a computer. You need hands-on. I see in the future, especially these major corporations that are dealing with AI, I see internships all over the place cooperating with certain educational institutions where you learn a basis and then you start an internship, and the internship is, I don't how you would do it and how you would, pay for it, and whether you partly pay for it as an individual or whether because it could be a private school, private industry. But I can see internships of major corporations with institutions that initially get you doing it, online with the courses, and then the hands-on is actually in a real-world situation, which takes out in essence the middleman of maybe building something in college. You go straight to the real world.
Yeah, right.
Where the internship is based on the real world, because you're going to need a heck of a lot of technical people if AI is as dominant as they say it's going to be.
Well, because in business, time has a greater value than in the educational process. But up until now, what there has been is that when an employer looks at a potential employee as they apply, they look and say, okay, you got a 4-year degree. You stayed with it for 4 years. Not measuring the many inefficiencies of that 4-year, within that 4-year time frame.
Right.
What they're looking at is discipline, right?
Right.
You kept at it for 4 years. Now, the degree also sometimes, not always, what you majored in matters. But the big thing is you did it for 4 years. You stuck with it for 4 years. That's going to change. I think it, again, is already changing. Well, wait a minute. What I need is somebody who respects the greater efficiencies in the workplace. In any business model, you need greater efficiencies, and you need greater productivity from everybody in the game.
Has the brainwashing of the wokeness of college wiped away the argument, well, you need the full educational experience of other topics and other curriculum? If it's not part of, if it's not part of a major,
I think
has it basically made that argument moot for a lot of companies that now go, no, you got that in high school. You can do things on your own,
right?
But here's what we want you for, and if you do this, we can get you through at a very cheap price and start paying you to do it. I just see that if everything in AI and business and industry is about efficiency and productivity, then why doesn't the educational system to get you into those jobs also
reflect that?
That same productivity and efficiency.
Right. I think it will. I think at some point it will.
866-90 Red Eye.
Hi, I'm Jen Loomis, a transport safety expert at JJ Keller, and I'm here to share a tip on compliance, safety, accountability. Compliance, Safety, Accountability, or CSA, is the FMCSA Safety, Compliance, and Enforcement Program. Its goal is to hold motor carriers and drivers accountable for highway safety and to reduce crashes, injuries, and fatalities on our roads. CSA does this by assessing the safety performance of motor carriers and drivers based on data collected during roadside inspections, crash reports, and FMCSA investigations. Based on the data that is compiled, motor carriers are assigned a score. The carrier is then grouped with other carriers who have had a similar number of safety events. Carrier scores within the group are then ranked to determine intervention priority. Low scores are better, so carriers with the highest scores are those that are most likely to be targeted for intervention by the FMCSA. Interventions range in severity and may include warning letters, roadside, off-site, or on-site inspections, civil penalties, or operation out-of-service orders. This tip was brought to you by J.J. Keller and Associates. Visit us at jjkeller.com.
We'll be right back with more Red Eye Radio with Eric Harley and Gary McNamara.
It's Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Quickly to Stan in Michigan. Stan, you're on Red Eye Radio as we talk a little bit about AI in education. Welcome.
Okay, good morning. And if I'm talking too loud, I'm talking off my Bluetooth, so just tell me to calm down. Okay, regardless, all the stuff you've been talking about, yeah, directionally you're correct. The problem is this AI, in its ultimate sense, is really just, I'm going to call it a machine, which is going to be able to predict the future, take care of itself and everything else, and have no need for anything else. In other words, it will be able. Supposedly, it should be able to teach itself. It should be able to repair itself, everything else. Now, like I told the person, that's an impossible situation because math cannot predict the future. You cannot predict the future. The math itself shows you cannot. You need data. You need to know the result in order to interpret what the heck happened so that you can correct and then move forward. And that is, and bottom line is we're giving way too much credit for AI right now.
Oh, I would agree.
I think Gary and I both agree on that.
Yeah.
I mentioned it
right.
a few days ago. Yeah.
Yeah, I would agree. And for example,
Thanks,
if you're saying that AI any time within the next million years can fully repair itself, and without any workers, and all workers will be replaced. No.
Right. Yeah. No. That's not going to happen.
No.
You're listening to Red Eye Radio from the Uniden America Studios.
And he is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. I think the last caller brought up some great points, and that's there's always the next Nirvana coming, isn't there?
Right.
When we talk about AI, there will be no workers, and it will replace workers. How quickly, it all depends on what is the practical use. We hear, for example, a lot in business. It could replace 2/3 of white collar workers. Well, what kind specifically? What is the AI system that you're setting up specifically? The other thing is when you talk about no workers and it can self-repair, so workers won't be necessary. That's impossible. in every human.
If we're talking about mechanics, yeah.
And well, even in software, or even in hardware, everything breaks.
Yeah.
Everything.
And in the hardware, it would be the same as mechanics. On software,
right.
You're right. There will be adjustments that are made. We made the observation with the Google layoffs, and we said, look, you guys were building a system of, if you think about it, Google is AI.
Mm-hmm.
You can log on, you Google something, you get the answer right there from millions of sources. And we said, there had to have been with some this knowing that with what we're doing, at some point it won't require as many humans to do this part of it, which a lot of that is at the beginning was data input. Now it's data gathering from AI. AI goes out and gathers that data because it's available on the web. It's stuff that it can gather from multiple sources. And you Google Hunter Biden, and you're going to get, all this. Yes, exactly. You're going to get all of the. By the way, the U-Haul that ran into the barricade outside the White House, no, that was not Hunter trying to move in. But the whole idea of this, is that you've got a lot of it required at some point all those humans to build those sources. All the stories on Hunter. It required dozens of people at the New York Post. And nowhere else, apparently.
Sometimes AI doesn't have to search for a million different sources.
Well,
sometimes it's just the New York Post.
The computers won't fix themselves. Something else that Hunter Biden knows
exactly.
very well.
We still have a long way to go.
This conversation went south quickly, didn't it? But the whole
and that doesn't mean though that the computer fixer has it easy, because the computer fixer also faces challenges.
Look, you say to your lovely wife, honey, I got a great idea. I want to open a computer repair shop, just a small one, just a little one. I want to get out of the rat race. I don't want to be at this huge now corporate conglomerate. I actually have a longtime friend, childhood friend, that worked for Dell for years and now works for a very small company, and kind of the same thing. They moved out in the country and honey, I'll just open this little repair store. Nobody, look, I can, and when I lock the door and go home at night, no worries, right? I just go back, show up in the morning, and then repair some more computers. I don't have to worry about all the, oh my gosh. And what was it?
I don't have to worry about what's going on in the world.
Yeah.
I just fix these little computers.
And what did she title the article? The computer from hell. What was it?
Laptop from hell.
Laptop from hell.
Miranda Devine.
Yeah. With all the great work. The aforementioned people at the New York Post that are doing the work. But it is going to require that human input. The roles will change, but they've been changing for a long time. I think it will change at an accelerated rate. And what we saw after COVID was this whole mismatch thing, right? When companies decided, well, my gosh, we don't have to, fly everybody to a meeting now. We can, or have everybody, come over from the other office to have a meeting. We can get on Zoom and everything else. And so it changed a lot of things, but it also changed what the marketplace has a demand for. Certain jobs were like, okay, gone, and they're not coming back, right? And those roles in the marketplace are gone. So there's this mismatch that's been happening. Somebody did that for 30 years. Now what do? I don't have the training experience, and you got to start all over. I think there's going to be that kind of effect, the mismatch effect here, as certain roles will shift over here. You're not going to need as many people I think with the white collar thing, that's, it is safe to say that a number of those jobs are going to go away. It won't require as many humans to do the same thing when you have greater tools, but it will require humans to do other things. And that's where, there's going to be a shift.
And that's why when you just explain it the way you did there, why when we're, because this started out, because this isn't just a general discussion on AI.
Right.
This was specifically when we're talking about, we got in just talking about wokeness and everything else, and where the colleges have gone. And we started on that New York City professor that flipped out.
Yeah.
But we just said, how long can colleges continue to go the way that they're going? They're losing enrollment. We know that they're losing enrollment. They are losing prestige in industry and business.
Yeah.
Where now industry and business looks at it. For example, if you go to an Ivy League university and you come out and you've got your pronouns out there, there's been a number of stories written. That's a negative. They don't want to deal with the baggage.
Right.
So college is not about preparing you. It's preparing you, and this is how a lot of companies are looking at it, that it's not just preparing you to make a company more productive. Companies are now looking and what you take, and if your brainwashing from college of the liberal wokeness exists there, they view that as a baseball bat in the middle of the spokes of the turning wheel. And so college also now, for many industries, contains baggage, which, as you said there, because there are with AI, there's going to be people are going to be losing their jobs, and they're going to need the training. And so, what will the training be like? Will the training be at traditional colleges, or will this training be the fact that you will be able to do it online at home, and then many of these companies that are dealing in AI needing a huge number of technical people? Because remember, when we had mass production, mass production, because we were able to mass produce much quicker, that really increased efficiency and productivity. And by the way, just for those listening, we're talking about AI in business and industry and why it's there, not AI and how it will be used in politics or by Google or perpetuating lies. We're talking about how business and industry view it, which is we can increase efficiency and productivity. Our labor costs will be down.
Right.
But it means that you will have a lot of people replaced. Mass production actually is what really made it able to move from an agricultural to a industrial society, which now we've moved from an industrial society to an information society. As we're making that transition, we're never going to fully give up any of those, and manufacturing probably will always have I believe, a greater workforce for agriculture that's really been able to automate, to incredible numbers, which is, when you think about it, what was it? Probably 90% of people were farmers back 200 years ago.
Yeah,
and now it's what is it now? 2% maybe.
One of the things too is in that era, you had the benefit, and some will say, well, that's child labor. Yeah, but you had the benefit of kids in the family working on the farm. And if you know anything about farming and families that farm, it still exists. But back then, when the economy was leaned greater on agriculture, you had the workforce was that now, and everybody was part of that process and making that run from 4 a.m. to the sun goes down. And now you have the shift of, all right, what does it require, and where are we now? We talk about the very low birth rate where we are, right? And what's going to happen ultimately with the economy going forward. What would it require to expand the economy? How many jobs? I do believe that, And I don't think it will happen. The AI thing will happen this fast, but there will be some that absorption of some of those jobs where we won't require, again, as many people to expand that economy in certain key roles. But once that changes, once we adapt in that way, or it changes in terms of what the roles are for humans, then there is a new expansion of the economy that you look at.
Right.
Okay, what do we do from there? And then that's where we are adapting to new roles. That's where we change.
But that's where can colleges in the state they're in right now, which is a state of brainwashing and wokeness in so many of these colleges, can they adapt quick enough to what the marketplace is going to want? Or is that going to be, and this is what we were talking about, is it going to be mostly online learning? And then if it's an online college or even a public college where you learn online, and then you're not taking all these other courses, because the baggage industry looks like the baggage of all the other stuff is too great. We just want somebody who can make us more productive and efficient, not a baseball bat in the spoke of the wheel turning. And then the internships is what you find with major companies, education, on the computer, at home, and then internship, or right there. The colleges or the training centers are right there, or there are organizations that are set up. When there was a machinist shortage, there actually was pseudo-government agencies that set up machining schools.
Yeah.
And then then these people learned to be machinists and then were, farmed out to different companies, but they were trained where they could be a machinist from day one.
Right.
And it was a partnership that was done, and there were grants that companies actually gave. Is that the way that we're going here? Because my point is, when AI in business and industry is supposed to bring a great deal of efficiency and productivity, and that's what the companies are thinking, that everything's productivity and efficiency more than ever, more than since mass production. If it has this effect, then they look at colleges and say, there's too much baggage in colleges today from students coming out.
Yeah, and I would say that, and the fact that so many of those individuals, those young individuals, are going to look and say, wait a minute, if I adapt to this as an individual, that's the competitive, spirit, really. If I adapt to this and I have that mindset going in and I can demonstrate that to a potential employer or even as an entrepreneur, then I excel.
Right.
And then you move away from the demand for that type of education and more to the, all right, how quickly can I adapt to this technology and then use it as a tool. But it's going to
accelerate. We're talking technological jobs and engineering jobs is what we're talking about. 866-90 Red Eye.
We'll be right back with more Red Eye Radio with Eric Harley and Gary McNamara.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. We got into a fun conversation this hour about just AI, and it all started not just because AI has been a huge topic, but also how will it affect industry. But we got to the point of how will it affect college? Because if AI is all about productivity and efficiency, and colleges are not anymore.
Yeah,
engineering schools may be, but the rest of it's not, and companies don't care whether you get the complete experience now of a college education because they look at it and go, no, college, now you're paying for a lot of baggage. But as you brought up during the break, you said the individual students, too, that pay a lot of money to go to these colleges, and they may not want to be part of this group mindset, the group think.
It'll bring about individualism more and more, I believe, because they're going to want to take that, skill along with the tool of AI and then prove that in the marketplace to employers or to customers as an entrepreneur.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One.